Hey kids, welcome back to Worth the Spin. I'm your host, Just Jack. It's just me. All right, hey, we're downstairs for this one. My room where I usually film doesn't have a door on it, and my wife's sleeping right next door. This is our special 1 a.m. edition, and my wife, unlike me, sleeps. So I thought we'd come down here and record because it's been 5 days since I've done a video, and I'm trying to keep on a fairly regular schedule. Good luck with that one, I know. Okay, here's what we're doing. So, I went today to a couple of record stores for the heck of it to look. I go to look. Wednesdays is usually my day to do my looking at record stores and stuff because I'm kind of extensive when I go. Sometimes I take my time and I kind of check out different pressings and yada yada yada. Today is not going to be the day to do that, so I got off yesterday. I had to go somewhere that was close to one of the record stores I usually frequent more. And I thought, well, let me run in there and see, take a look. And I noticed they didn't have any copies of Paul's new album. I went to two stores, and they were both in this mall, if you remember what malls are. And neither one had it. And they said they both had sold out, and they're still waiting on new copies to come in. And I've heard that from a few different stores. I called just for the heck of it. And I think 4 of the 5 stores I called said that they were waiting on copies to come in, and they were sold out. And the other one said that they had 1 copy, and that was it. So that's kind of weird, as this album is such a huge hit. I would think that it would be more in stock. But then maybe, they concentrated so much on doing all these variants that maybe they didn't concentrate so much on doing the stock for the regular stores so that other people could buy them who wanted to just buy the album and not be all crazy like the rest of us. So made me think. This album is, I believe when I checked, was still sitting at number 5 in the U.S. Yet it's a number 1 hit album in the U.K. And I'm like, man, it's just weird how that works. I know it's different countries and different things, and there are some Beatle albums that were number 1 in other countries that weren't. But we mainly, when we talk about it, we concentrate on the U.S. versus the U.K. It's just the 2 main markets. That's kind of what we concentrate on when we talk about this. And I'm like, man, it's weird that this album is such a hit. And I've called 5 stores, 4 don't have it, and not sure when they're getting copies in. And yet it's not a number 1 album. So it's very strange to me. But again, like I said, there's all these variant editions that are out. I think it may be in the area of 12 different variants of this thing by now. And so I guess it would kind of make sense to sell a lot because you're doing I like to call it Taylor Swift thing, and do a bunch of different variants. And I don't know if that's Paul's intention to. I mean, you hear different things, you see different things on the web and stuff. This is Paul's way of making sure this album hits number 1. There's all the different variants. We'll all buy them, and that'll help push sales. And sometimes I kind of feel that way about Taylor. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Taylor Swift. I have all of her albums. I am a Taylor Swift fan. I'm a Swiftie to a point. I've learned to cool my heels here because it has gotten way out of hand with her. But you hear about other bands sometimes getting close to the Beatles, and they may break the Beatles record for this, may break it for this. And here's the thing to realize is a lot of these bands, such as Taylor, release multiple versions of the same album. And that pushes sales when your fans are crazy enough to go out and spend that hard-earned money, and money's extremely tight right now, to buy those variants. I'm not saying I'm not one of those people, so don't think I'm knocking anybody who does do that. I'm just saying, it helps increase the sales. So when the Beatles were a band, and their policy was, we're not going to really re-release what we've already done. So they've released 12 studio albums. Those 12 studio albums went to number 1 on 1 version. There was only 1 version released of those albums, and they went straight to number 1. Nowadays, you can't get a band to release 1 version of an album and it go to number 1. One of the main reasons is we have the streaming thing now, which we all know I am not a big fan of. But you do you. It's your money, whatever you want to do. That's how I feel about it. So, to me, judging an album's sales is different than what it used to be when I was growing up. You went to the record store, you bought the physical copy, you bought the singles, and by buying that 45, that helped push the sales of the song or the album to get into that number one spot because you physically have bought that. Now you can sit at home in a blizzard and buy a new song that releases on that day, and it helps pump up the sales and to make it a number one. It's kind of, I don't know. I guess it's technology. We're moving on. That's the way it is. In 5 years, who knows? Maybe there won't be records pressed at all, or CDs pressed at all. Everything will be totally digital, or maybe it'll go to something else. Maybe something, I don't know what, but maybe something will replace the current system of iTunes and whatever, Apple Music and all those kind of things. I don't use those things, so I'm not really familiar with those things. So who knows? Maybe those will be replaced in 4 or 5 years down the road with something else. But to say that, we've kind of gotten off track. But it's kind of my 2 cents. It's about what I got left this week is 2 cents. So I thought, let's take a look at the other albums of Paul's that have come out that have been number one albums. So we're going in 2 categories. We're going in the U.S. versus the U.K. because different albums in the U.K. have hit number one than have hit in the U.S. There are some of the same ones that hit, Band on a Run, obviously. But there are other albums that were number one here in the States that were not number one in Europe. And those ones that were number one in Europe that were not here in the States. It's a funny thing. I kind of think it when an album hits number one, it's number one worldwide. It's everywhere. It's based on cumulative sales, and it isn't. So it's based on that region, that country, and so on. So let's take a look at some of Paul's other number ones just for the fun of it, and my 2 cents of if I think that album should have been a number one album or not. And I know you're going to go, well, you always say you love everything that they do, that's why you're a fan, and that may be true, but I do have some suggestiveness to my madness. So I can say, yes, I do love all their music. I love their solo stuff, but I'm not crazy about this in particular song. I really don't like this album. So I like to be subjective about it. I'm not going to say I love every tiny thing they do. There's nothing bad, period. And I'm sure there's people certain bands and performers, they love every single thing they do, and they don't have one single issue with so much as one song. And that's cool. So, the first number one that we had in Europe, this was released in May 17th, 1971, I believe, and this is Ram. And this album, when it originally came out, was not considered to be a great album by Sir Paul McCartney. As you remember, there was a lot of backlash or whatever on it, and that it wasn't a good album. And here's the thing to look at too. I think the Beatles were phenomenal. Everything they touched was gold, and so people just expected. I think they expected when they broke up it would be the same. Anything they released solely would be just as good as what they released as a band. And you have to realize that the Beatles were a special kind of magic, and there were 4 different ingredients to that magic. And once you put those 4 ingredients into a bottle and shook it up, voila, you got the Beatles experience. Doesn't necessarily mean going forward. It's kind of like baking. So you're baking a cake, you have to put in a certain amount of ingredients, certain way, in order to get that cake to taste the way it takes. You leave one of those ingredients out, it's not going to quite taste the same. Case in point, 3 Beatles got together for an anthology project, finished up a couple of John songs. They're good songs, I like them. I don't think they're great songs, and I think even though they used old source material that included John, I think that it's not the same thing. I'm just one of those people that when you remove somebody from a band, there's not many bands that I can think of that have lost a member or replaced a member, and I say, man, they sound just as good as they did, when they were when the other person was in it. It lacks for me sometimes. Not every band, but sometimes it does lack for me. So I think, like Led Zeppelin, we lost John Bonham. Led Zeppelin said, it's it. This was us. We were a band. We were these 4 guys, and we're not going to continue on without them. And I agree with that. I think that was the right decision, because that was Led Zeppelin. Those four guys, just like the Beatles were those four guys. So continuing on, and even not replacing John, but say just the three other Beatles by themselves at the time, it's not the same. There's an ingredient missing there. So it's not going to be as good as what it would have been with that other ingredient. If you get my point, this is kind of my opinion. But I think a lot of the solo material is really excellent, and I think when it comes out that I don't think people really give it a chance and listen to it and said, let me listen to it subjectively. This is a solo album. This is not a group project. This is not going to have the same feel to it. So let me see, how I feel about this. So I listen to things a little bit more objectively than I think some people do. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. So anyway, number one in Europe was Ram. And I agree that this should be a number one album. This is fantastic. And my favorite song on here, which I think is everybody's favorite song, is Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey. It's fantastic. I love that song. I love the line, the butter wouldn't melt, so I put it in a pie, okay? I don't know what it is about that, but I just get a chuckle out of that line every time I hear it. So our second release of Paul McCartney is with Wings. It's Wings, and of course it's no wonder at all that this was a hit album. Released December 5th, 1973. We have Band on the Run. Nobody can deny that this is probably the greatest Paul McCartney solo album that he has done. It's not my favorite, but it is, I think, probably the greatest solo album that he's done. This is full of fantastic music on here. There's not one bad song on here, and there's something about this cover I just love, and the whole story behind this cover I think is kind of neat. So I just love this album, and it's deserving of a number one spot. So our number three album in Europe is Venus and Mars, and this was released May of 27th, 1975. And this is another, you can't deny it, this is just a fantastic album. Every song on this album is great. This album deserves to be a number one album. Our next UK number one album, and this one's a little surprising to me because I do enjoy this album, and I re-listened to these again before I did this, so I had to keep my opinion of them fresh. I don't think this is, to me, this isn't a number one album material. I do enjoy this album, but being number one, I don't think it's a number one album. Released May 16th, 1980, is McCartney 2. And this is a good album. I think my favorite song is Waterfalls. I think it's probably it. That or Temporary Secretary. You got that. I know he's kind of got that techno pop thing going on there for that. But I do enjoy that. I think it's pretty kind of cool, man. So our next UK number one album is Tug of War. That's right. And this was released April 26th, 1982. And I'm going to surprise you and say I think my favorite song, Take It Away or Ballroom Dancing, is probably my favorite song off this album. It's a great album, deserves to be number one. I love this album. It has, I think, the best tribute song to John that any of the Beatles did, for sure, on here. It's hard to not tear up a little bit when you hear that song. Our next UK number one, and this is probably surprising to some of you who don't know that it was the number one album. I liked it. I thought this was a good album. The movie was, I agree. The movie was lacking in a lot of ways. It was basically just a giant MTV video, and it wasn't that great. It wasn't that great. But I think, personally, the album's fantastic. I do love it. Is it a number one album? No, I don't think so. But I do think that this is a good album. And it is Give My Regards to Broad Street from October 22nd, 1984. And I think, without a doubt, No More Lonely Nights is my favorite song on here. And I do like some of the remakes that he's done on here for Here, There, and Everywhere and stuff. They're not as good, obviously, as the originals, but I do think they were pretty good versions. Our next one, and this is another one. This is the number one in the UK, and I'm not a fan of this album, and I'm not a fan, honestly, of most of the Beatles music from the 90s. I don't think any of the three did a solo album in the 90s that I really enjoyed, to be honest with you. I like them, they're good, but they're just not favorites of mine, and they don't get a lot of replay on my turntable. But this one was a pretty huge thing when it came out, and a lot of people love this album to death. I don't think it's the number one album, but again, that's just my opinion, and it is Flowers in the Dirt from June 6th of 89. Favorite song on here is My Brave Face. I think that I really do love that song. I think that's a fantastic song. Our next one up, number one in the UK. And again, this is one that I don't think is the number one album myself. This is my third one in a row. I'm gonna say this is not a to me. I would consider it good enough to be a number one album. A lot of people feel differently. This was a very well received album. I didn't find it that great, but it's just me. That's just me. And so this one is McCartney 3 from December 18th of 2020. Favorite song on McCartney 3. Looking over the track list. I don't have one. Sorry. Not a big fan of that album. So our current and last on our list of Paul McCartney number ones in the UK. Surprise, surprise, you guys know the answer to that already. And it is The Boys of Dungeon Lane. And there's not a bad song on here. This album deserves to be number one. Why it's not number one in America just surprises me. But maybe it's going to take a little bit more time. I don't know. But this is a fantastic album. I love everything on here. This is definitely his best since Tug of War. So now let's head on over to Pond, as you say, and go to America. And let's see what albums were number one in America. The list is different in a way, but some of these number ones I agree with more than I do the UK ones. So first up we have McCartney from April 20th, 1970. Paul's first solo album. I agree that this should have been a number one album. This is it was experimental. Paul did everything on here. This is a fantastic album. I love this album. I don't think there's a bad song on here. This is deserving, I think, of number one status. Our next album in America was a number one, and I hugely agree with this because this is probably my all-time favorite Paul McCartney album. Why? You will probably ask why. I think the songs mesh really good on here. I like the songs that are on here. This is one of the albums that I listened to a lot when I was a lot younger, first getting into the Beatles. So maybe I've spent more time with this than other ones. I don't know. But this is a favorite of mine. And I wish that they would have done the 2-album version because I think it would have worked as a double album. All that stuff that was left off that has later been put on the Half Speedmaster. It's just fantastic stuff. And I think this should have stayed as a number or as a 2-album set. That's just my opinion. So the next one is Red Rose Speedway from April 30th of 1973. Certainly, to me, this is a number one album. But only in America, not in the UK. Our next U.S. number one album, no surprise here. This isn't going to surprise anybody. And this is Band on the Run. We just talked about this. And being a number one in Europe, this is the Half Speedmaster. Only have one original copy of Band on the Run. But yeah, fantastic album. Again, not a bad song on here. Love the song, love the cover art, love everything about this album. Love the backstory of this album. This is just a fantastic album. It definitely deserves to be number one. Is it his best album? It's got a lot to choose from. It's a pretty big catalog to pick out just one. But I would say this is probably his best work. Not my favorite. My favorite's Red Rose Speedway. I can have a favorite, yet think something else is a better album. And this is, I think, probably Paul at his pinnacle. Our next U.S. number one is Venus and Mars, and we just talked about this one too. This one's also number one in UK, and it's number one in America, and it should be because, again, this is a fantastic album. I love this album, and I love the way it starts out, with Venus and Mars and Rock Show. I think every show Paul did after this album was really should have been done with those two as an opening because it's fantastic the way it does that. I love this album. Again, I don't think there's a bad song on here. It's fantastic, and I think it deserves to be number one. Our next U.S. number one, and again, this was not number one in the UK, but it was number one here in America. This is a great album. I do love this album. Couple of songs I'm not that crazy about, but overall, this is a really fantastic album. So I think it does deserve to be number one. And I think it's great. And it is Wings at the Speed of Sound. This is from March 26, 1976. And this should have been a number one album because it's fantastic. All right, our next is Wings Over America. This fantastic. And I am not as you know, you might have heard me say before, I'm not a fan of greatest hits and live albums. But this is such an excellently done performance. And it turned out fantastic on vinyl that it's an exception for me. I love this album. It's a 3-album set, and it could certainly have been more if there were more songs done during this in particular concert. But I think it was great. So, December 10th, I think. December 10th, I think, is 76, I believe. This is, another UK or US number one album, and I think it's deserving of being number one. And I think we are okay. We have a couple more left on the US number one charts. This one is the one that was number one in UK. We've already talked about this one, and it is Tug of War, and it is deserving to be a number one album. This is a fantastic album. This is great. I love this album. I love the album art. I love all the songs on here. I think this is a really, really great album, and it deserves to be number one. All right, our next number one, and this is it. This is it for America. This is the last Paul album that Paul's had. It was a number one here in the U.S., and I agree with it being number one. It's a really good album. It's not one of my favorites, but it is a good album. There's some songs that are on here that, to me, are a little, but yeah, I think it deserves to be number one. And it is Egypt Station from September 7th of 2018. And I remember when this first came out and first hearing it, I was like, man, this is the best album Paul's done in a long time. It's a great album. And I still feel that way. Even though there's a few songs that I'm not that crazy about, I still feel that way. It's fantastic, and I think it is deserving of number one. Okay, so now we come down to the two albums I think should have been number one albums because I love them. I think they're great albums. They do have their problems, but every album, I don't think there's many. There are some perfect albums out there. Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here, perfect, just perfect album. You can pick quite a few, honestly. I think that just perfect. I mean, Beatles, Abbey Road, White Album, Sgt. Pepper. There's tons and tons of perfect albums out there. Supertramp, even in the quietest moments. There's so many albums I think you listen to, like it's just perfect in every way. So, but these albums certainly aren't perfect, and they do have their flaws. But I enjoy them immensely, and I think they should have been number one albums. But that's my opinion. So let me know what you feel. So the first one that I think was not number one, but I think should have been, is Pipes of Peace from October 31st of '83. It's a follow-up to Tug of War. And again, Sir George Martin helped work on this album, and it was felt to be a little too poppy, a little too MTV-y, I think, for people. And that's why, one of the reasons I think it wasn't number one. But, I love this album. It's great. Average Person, I think, is my all-time favorite song off of this album. There's a few I really love, but I think Average Person is probably, I just love the beat of it. I like that it's fast, it's kind of light and witty, and I love that song. So the other one that I think should have been a number one album that was not, and this album is not really well thought of by a few people, a lot of people, I guess. But I like it. I think it's a great album. I love every song on here. I love the cover art. I love the label art. I just think that's pretty neat. And yeah, I love every song on here minus the broadcast. That, you know, it's a real short talking piece by a, and it doesn't flow. Number one, he talks too fast when he says it, and it's not like it's at a moment where it's kind of a themed album where you got kind of a theme going, and we're trying to blend this from, you know, one side to the other. It doesn't work for me. I really don't care for that. But minus that, I still think that this should have been a number one album, and it is. Surprise, surprise. It'll surprise you, but not me. Back to the Egg, June 8th of '79. Love this album. Again, you have, you know, like Arrow Through Me, I think it's a little technically, if that's a word. It's a word now because I said it. But yeah, I love this album. I love the cover art. I think it's great. And I love the record label. You have the, you know, the egg on there. Here, flip it up. You have the sunny side up. Sunny side up. And then as you flip your egg, you have the Over Easy. There you go. Yep, I love it. I just think that's the coolest label on a McCartney album myself. I love this album. I love all the songs. Favorite song on here, Spinning On. I'm trying to think. I mean, getting closer. Spinning On, again and again and again. Man, there's just, to me, there's really good. After the Ball, Million Miles, Winter Rose, Love Away. I mean, this is just to me, this is a great album. It should have been, I think, a number one album. But, you know, I'm going to go listen to it again now. Man, yeah. I love this album. It's just me, but I love this album. So, you know, hey, each your own. Everybody has their different opinions, their different views, and that's the way it works in the world, and it should work. And we should all be respectful of other people's opinions, and, you know, just like we want them to be respectful of ours. So, there you go. That's a look at Paul's solo career, number one wise, in the UK versus the US, and the two, I think, should have been number one albums. There might be one or two more. I think I was debating on, should they be number one, or are these kind of more favorites? So I didn't want to say pick one, like say, you know, Back to the Egg, and which is on my favorite list of Paul McCartney albums, and say it should have been number one just because it is a favorite. I think if it's a number one, it should be based on the fact that it has the material, it has the stuffing to be a number one album versus just going, oh, it's a favorite of mine, I think it should have been number one. There's a difference between a favorite album and a album that qualifies to be a number one album. And you have to be subjective in that. You can't pick every favorite album and say, this should have been number one. You know, there's different things that help make an album or a song or whatever number one versus just a favorite. So there you go. That's my list, and I don't know if you agree with it or disagree with it. As far as the last two albums, the other ones you can't change because that's set in stone and not by me. But there you go. So I'd love to hear your opinions on this, and I hope you've enjoyed this one. And yeah, so there you go. If you enjoyed this video, thumbs up, please, and like to subscribe. If you like this channel, subscribe to it. If you like listening to me, subscribe to it. If you just go, I don't know, that guy's pretty cool, I'm just going to subscribe just to give him a subscribe, do that. That's cool too. But I hope you'll come back. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoy my past videos if you go back and look at any of them. And I hope you enjoy my videos going forward. Trying to come up with more with unique content that I don't see on other Beatles channels. So we're not, you know, so we're not all doing the same thing all the time. But anyway, so there's lots of great channels out there to watch besides mine, and check them out, man. Lots of them. But anyway, that's that's what I got for you this time. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate everybody who watches, everybody who likes, and everybody who subscribes, and everybody leaves a comment. I love comments. I love talking about stuff. It's not always an in-depth, deep discussion going on there. Maybe a sentence or two, but yeah. So I love getting comments too, and I love to know what you guys think about these lists of #1 albums. Especially the two I chose, I think should have been #1 albums. Do you think those should have been? Do you have albums that you think should have been #1 that weren't #1? Let me know. All right, so that's all I got for you this time. I'll see you next time. Again, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys later. Oh, one more thing. Almost forgot again this time. Sprinkle a little bit of love out there, because this world needs love, lots of it. Matter of fact, don't sprinkle it. Get a bucket and just toss that love out there. And if you can today, if you have the means, if you don't mind, please do something good for one person today. Doesn't matter what it is. Buy the guy on the corner a cheeseburger. Give him $1. Tell someone they look nice. Say their hair looks nice. You like their outfit, whatever. There's always something nice that we can find to say about somebody. And sometimes that one small thing that really means nothing to you. I'm going to do my good deed today. Hey, your hair looks great. Just want you to know that. I got my good deed out of the way. Maybe, just that to you, but to that person who may have gotten up and started out with a bad day, and the day has continued for whatever other reason to be bad, it may be a very huge life-changing thing for them. So let's all try to boost one another up, show a little love, and try to change this world of what all is going on, and to make it a lot more loving, caring place, because that's what really matters. All right, that's all I got for you. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in.